Welcome to Behind the Music, episode 3. This one is Wake Up, and I'm here with Dan Austin again, who
Hey.
mixed the track. Hey, Dan.
Hey.
Dan is in the UK somewhere in a mystery location, and in your studio, Soundhorn Studio.
Yes, the second incarnation of it. I've just had to move, so it's Soundhorn 2. I'm in and settled.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you.
And Mr. Paul Mullen over in California in the desert.
Hey, hello. Yeah, sorry I missed the last one. You guys apparently rocked it,
Smashed it. Loads of
Lost some
technical
translation,
issues.
yeah.
Probably lost everybody along the way, but pulled it off. Made a little dance, and it was fine. So let's get cracking with this one. So yeah, Wake Up is the latest single from Losers, released a few weeks ago. We just dropped the video last week, and now it's time for the webinar. So we're just going to have a little look into the session. So hopefully you can all see the session that I've got in front of me. And yeah, I'm going to go right from the start. So I think it was 2015, was it, Paul? Maybe 2015.
Around about that, yeah, when we first came to Berlin, right?
Yeah, in Berlin. And one day, a man called Dan Austin sent a little tune over, and it was really, really great. And it was this song. So Dan doesn't actually know this, but he actually inspired the song. Sometimes
well, you said this before we started talking, didn't you? And Tom was going to tell me, and I was like, no, let's save it for the interview because I can't remember anything about it. So what was it?
Well, because sometimes you, like me and Paul, come into the room and then you just start playing with stuff, and then you just go, and then you're off. And then other times you sit there and you're like, okay. And then you get something like this come in, and you're like, oh, that's cool. So it was this song called 10,000 by Proxy, and so obviously we heard that and we're like, whoa, okay, that's amazing. Let's just listen to that all day, or we could just sort of vibe that out with something of our own. So we did, didn't we? Basically just thought, okay, well, let's just use that as a little reference, and we started with that vibe. And I think, let's have a look here. Yeah. So this is where Wake Up started. It's quite removed from where it is now. It's a bit more epic. It's a bit more dark, I guess. And Eddy came up with the idea for the top line, didn't he? For it was almost like a sort of a juxtaposition with the track, wasn't it? Because it was quite a sort of having it track, and then Eddy comes up with these quite sort of almost like playground melodies, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He had that vibe, didn't he, about something that had happened with an ex-girlfriend, and things that they'd watched or seen, or things that had happened that kind of ruined it all for him. And we just put this guy vocal down, what Paul did.
Used to love that song, now I'll never hear it again. I used to love that film, now I'll never see it again. I used to love that game, but I'll never play it again.
Which was kind of cool, but for me, like, the vocal and the music just didn't make any sense, because it was like the two elements in the background there. I think we said at the time it was like Korn, wasn't it? It sounded a bit like Korn. And the
Korn, yeah, as you know.
The two musical elements were like both out of tune, because I love doing that when you sort of pitch stuff like, slightly off, so it's not like right on it. But they were both so off it, and then you had this melody that was really, sort of sweet on the top, and it just didn't quite fit right, did it? I mean,
no, it was quite unsettling, but it was also hard to get a full-on vibe from it. Really, the track was going one way, and the vocal was going another, wasn't it? In a sense. But But yeah, I mean it was quite heavy as well, that version.
It's very heavy, wasn't it? That was like
Listened to it
sort of
last night.
old Losers, sort of more epic and yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. So you may have noticed that the lyrics are slightly different in that one because this was actually titled "Take the Pain." So it was definitely a different vibe because it's, you know, the track is now called "Wake Up," and I guess, you know, I went through a bit of a transformation. I think the band did as well. We sort of like, we had a lot written for How to Ruin Other People's Futures, didn't we? We were in this big residential studio, and I'm sure, you know, I've been in that situation with Dan as well, when like with the first Cooper's album, where you're in there and you can basically, you know, just make music 24 hours a day, and you've got all the mics set up, and you know, it's just an amazing opportunity if you can get it. And
total freedom and in your own space. Just yeah.
And you just can get so much done, can't you? And yeah, and that's sort of what we did. And I guess it was always like, we knew it was something special, but it never quite connected, did it? And I think, as I said before, it's like music's all about a connection, isn't it?
I think it was, we knew it was a good verse, we knew it was a big chorus, and I was a little bit kind of, oh, this is a song. This is like, it's kind of straight up, it's set out as a pop song in a way, you know. You've got your verse, you've got your chorus, you've got bridge, drop down, and big massive chorus. I think I got a little bit scared of it because it was just, I felt a bit uncomfortable with it being like
songy,
like a big song. Yeah,
it's just so awkward, aren't you?
Yeah,
it happens with so many people that I work with, though, that there's a fear when it's not that it's too good, but it's like people use the word pop, but like, what is it? It's catchy, and like you said, it's got a real, like a song to it. Yeah. So it can be deadly. Like we were also talking about this a little bit earlier on the phone, so weren't we, that thing of having something like that, but then being able to just sit with it for a bit.
Yeah.
And then chip away at it, because maybe don't want to keep working on it at that point, like get comfortable with it. And you know, that's a great thing to have when you've got something like that, isn't it? Just like step away.
Yeah.
And then come back to it.
I think like a really good example for me is Nirvana, because he always used to talk about sort of Beatles melodies, didn't he? And like and having that over like sort of Pixies sort of guitars or whatever, and melding the two. And he was really amazing with his melodies, but then underneath it would just be ferocious, wasn't it? And it's that sort of thing. And then I mean, you know, obviously with Nirvana, you take all those melodies and just play them with an acoustic guitar, they just sound amazing. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's like there's a song underneath it.
It allows you to do it as well. If you've got that sort of pretty melody on the top, you can then get away with all sorts underneath, and then get the feeling back. You know, it's like really dark lyrics with really pretty melodies, isn't it? Something that sounds like a nursery rhyme and that, you know, kids are humming along to, can be menacing and dark and evil, but the two things together sort of make it sit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that original version, we actually had a section in the Paul's favorite section. I mean, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, because it, like some of the other two that we talked about, the other two tracks, this also went through lots of different versions and changes, and along the way, I guess, like, you had some bits that you liked, and I had some bits that I liked, and Eddie had some bits that he liked, and you sort of like, you know, this is being in a band, isn't it? You've got to find some middle ground. Thanks, and there was this section. This is, you know, we were wigging out, weren't we? This is.
Yeah, it's good proper bit. Yeah.
Which, you know, to be fair to
It's so
Paul,
good.
it's pretty awesome, isn't it? I mean, I remember when we did that, we're like, whoa, okay, that's good. That's amazing. That's the best bit. And then we just ditched the whole thing. So,
Yeah, just took it out, get rid of it.
you
But it's
know,
there.
so maybe,
That's
you know,
what we do.
we'll come back to that or just leave it forever. I mean, this
I've
is,
never heard.
forgot
I've
about
never
it.
heard. I was
Yeah,
just,
I
I've
forgot
never
about
heard
it.
that bit, but it doesn't. That wouldn't work in the version as it is.
No.
That's another
No.
song, isn't it? You know, that happens all the time, doesn't it? How many like middle eights or verses that get sacked off then become the chorus of another song? Or
yeah.
Well,
I'd love to make
wasn't it? Blood did something with Smashing Pumpkins where he basically put two songs together. I can't remember what track it was. Maybe Butterflies with the Broken Wings or something.
right.
It's basically two tracks. He just went, that bit goes there, put them together, and it's two completely separate tracks that just go like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes just sack it off.
Yeah. Best bits of whatever you got, isn't it? Just stick it together, or like those. Man, I cut so much of what I feel are like amazing bits of songs, but generally because they're just like noisy instrumental stuff and it makes no sense to the listener. My producer head's like, that's sick, listen to all the synths. But you know, but also it's fun while you're creating it, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have those bits. I'm always, when I'm producing, like I call it trimming the fat or giving it a haircut later. It's like let's do the long version always, and then take it down. You know, you can always take it down at the end.
Yeah, that's well. I guess when you're working in Pro Tools, isn't it? It's just so easy just to like move stuff around. It's you can just sort of do what you like. It's amazing to have that ability.
I mean, I think with that section we always said that it's good enough that it should have its own space and its own track. And I think we just never got around to doing it, but it's still there. But yeah. So I mean, I've been going through the sessions. There'll be countless ideas and moments which we loved but just didn't make it onto the final piece, I guess, with any recorded session. Yeah, but I've totally forgot about that bit, so I'll look into it. So that was Take the Pain, and then we just left it, didn't we? And we were like, oh yeah, that's a good one, we'll just stick it in the bag, this very big deep bag full of ideas which are there still. And luckily now with this new sort of release schedule that we're doing, we're just sort of like picking them out one by one, aren't we? And it's really nice actually just to sort of, you know, be able to pick and choose and not have to, like I said before, like stick them all on one album and have them like make sense, because we're a bit like sort of all over the place, aren't we? We just sort of go with the flow and yeah, absolutely. I think that's we're always pulling ourselves in different directions, and you know, if I'm just going from a track like Lost in Translation to Wake Up, and then the next one is different again, so it actually works really well, you know. So we've just done this all along.
It's such a freeing way to work, isn't it? Because like you said, like Lost in Translation and this, if you were making a 12 track whatever, like whatever, you know, an album was, those may not end up on it. And also it's you get the Emperor's New Clothes thing, don't you, of the newest things being exciting and those not anymore. Like getting stuff out quickly is so freeing, I think. Like because stuff can get diluted over time as well, can't it? You know, or you're like on and like, you know, for people, I guess I presume for me certainly as a fan of bands and artists that are doing that, I love it, like constant output, you know. It's great.
And it gives it those tracks that you said, when you release a record, you look at it as a body of work, and it needs to flow, it needs to be a piece. And some of those great tracks that you have will just not make it onto that because it doesn't fit that aesthetic or whatever. And this way you can just put stuff out, and it's just they're standalone, and they make sense in their own little world, and things like this, and the playlists and the, you know, in the live versions, so it gives each track a chance to breathe, you know. And then we group together and put it as an EP.
So we had a little bit of a rest after that, and I don't know how long it was, 2-3 years, and then we came back to it. And just in a different headspace, wasn't really feeling it, and I was in the studio and I was listening to a song called Metal Fingers in My Body by Add N to X, which I guess I don't know. For me, I just always have like there's 20 songs that I just really, really love. If I'm just like, you know, need a bit of inspiration, I'll just like, oh, listen to that song again. I remember Dan always used to say like, always listening to songs like constantly for like inspiration and sounds and whatever. And I put it on and it really got me going. And I was like, oh, that's a nice sound. I don't know whether you guys know it. And that's all I needed. And I was like, oh, that's a good sound, isn't it? And I thought, yeah, what's that then? And then so I got the old Juno, one of the best keyboards in the world ever, and just stuck it through a distortion. And this monitor, as you may be able to read here, was called Take the Pain New Style Juno Power, which is where the sort of the transformation started.
I used to love that smile. Now I'm staring at. Now the medicine's for me. I used to love that town. Now there's rats on memory lane. I used to love that loud. Now the fucking joke's on me.
So I loved that.
Nice.
Eddie hated it, and I'm not sure what Paul thought about it, but yeah.
I like it
Eddie
now.
really-
You know what I'm
Eddie
like.
yeah, do you know what?
I can't remember the time.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, that's my favorite version.
Bass.
Yeah, it just had a bit of a bounce to it, you know, and it was like, oh, I like that. Maybe I should have played it to Dan. What do you think of that one, Dan?
I like it. I can see the journey now between the two.
Yeah, but it's like I had the Juno there, but the drums were still from before.
Yeah.
And the drums were like, they reminded me of Roxette. And I really didn't want Roxette drums, although I love Roxette, but it just wasn't right for this track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's proper Roxette, that, isn't it?
You're smiling every snare in you.
I know Paul's a big Roxette fan.
Brilliant.
Oh, no, love Roxette. Not slamming Roxette, man. Just that drum sound for this.
I don't think anybody's slamming Roxette.
No. I hope they're not.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about Roxette for the rest of this webinar? Because yeah, I think I've only got about another 5 seconds in me, but that's all I know about Roxette. They did a soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Did they really?
Yeah, must have been love for the soul.
Oh,
they did anyway. Sorry, drums, Roxette.
Yeah, so Roxette drums, and then so this was the next version, and Paul, I mean, one of those moments where someone plays something or sings something, and you're like, yeah, that's how the song goes. That's amazing. That's of course that's there. I mean, why would it not be there? It's incredible. So we were just sort of plodding along, and Paul always plays with his guitar behind me, and sometimes he comes up with a little bit of magic, don't he? Most of the time.
Only sometimes.
24% of the time. Ah, okay.
So.
So we had another predicament here, didn't we? Because we were like, whoa, oh, that's good, isn't it? That's good. And I immediately thought, well, that has to be at the start of the track because it's clearly the best bit now. So we're just knocking it up a level.
Yeah,
so
we used the verse, didn't we?
I whacked it up the front. So after the Roxette drums, to Paul Mullen on guitar.
I used to love that smile. Now I'm staring at your teeth. I used to love that style. Back in 1983. I used to love that.
I can't remember who didn't like that, but somebody didn't like that either. What do you think about that, Dan?
I remember when I first heard the version that I heard, and when you first hear that guitar in that version, like which is the release version, after a lot of incredible moments in the track already, being like, it's fantastic. It is fantastic.
I think Dan should be in the band. I think Dan should be in the band.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that isn't as engaging as the now finished version with it there.
It's true. You need to get to that, don't you? Because otherwise, you spacked your load too early, haven't you?
Exactly. It's a moment. It's also quite discordant, which, as much as I love that, and we all do, obviously, given the stuff that we do, it's then can't be going for too long, can it? You know.
No, it gets in the way of the vocal. This is a thing.
Exactly.
Yes, a good producer and mixer understand that you have to give everything room to breathe, I guess. And that certainly wasn't doing that, was it? So where did we get to next?
Used to love that.
Okay, so this, I think.
Used to, that's our memory lane.
Okay, so we've got some. I brought some telly guitars now. This is all just one note guitars with decapitator. Very, very simple. Eddy, that's right. Eddy just told us, just calm it down, nice and simple.
1983. I used to love that town. Now there's rats on memory lane. I used to love that now. Now the fucking joke's on me.
So yeah, those guitars really made a massive difference, didn't they? And that's kind of where we left it, wasn't it? In terms of vibe. We brought over.
Wake up and start again. Wake up and start.
So we had those mad sort of Nirvana guitars in the post-chorus, which were back from the original. I was trying to find what kind of sound we had for that, because that was pretty. Well, we'll get to that later actually, because we can just solo it and we can talk to Dan about maybe what we used on it. But yeah, that was kind of like the vibe, wasn't it? And then
I was
the
getting
next
close.
thing, the next thing, because I really missed the bounce of like the add into X, the Juno thing. It was a bit too flat, and I thought needs a little bit of a bounce, needs a little bit of a pop. And like I do many times when I need a little bit of inspiration, I go to the Electribe, Korg Electribe, which I bought for Cooper's, and I swear to God, I think we've probably used on every song somewhere for a little bit of vibe, because it's just
amazing,
isn't it?
So which one are you on about, Tom? The drum machine one or the synth one?
The rhythm one, the ER one. I don't know what the this guy here. Oh God.
So yeah, these came out like late 90s. There was a sampling one, a synth one, and a drum one, and you could just really quickly make incredible sounding beats and then manipulate them on the fly. Like, do you remember when they came out? It was just like mind blowing, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's just so easy to use, and just not many buttons, and so this. I mean, I used it all over the Cooper stuff. And yeah, I don't know whether you can hear it. Let's see. Can you hear that?
Yeah. We got you.
So yeah, I mean, I just found that and was just like, man, that's so good. The problem with this guy is, as soon as you start playing with it, it becomes so vibey. It's difficult to put it down, because I thought, I better find that. And I have one of Paul's guitar pedals sitting next to it, and I thought, I'll plug that in as well. Because we always did that, didn't we? Like, with Cooper's as well, and Losers. Guitar pedals were meant for guitars, but actually, if you stick a drum machine through them, or a vocal, or anything, you can get amazing sound.
Yeah.
And I think I've just found a new version, Paul. Because listen to this.
say something.
I mean, that's just
Yes.
isn't it?
Is that the Zero Worship?
That is the Zero Worship. Paul's
Yeah.
weird, amazing guitar pedal that just sort of has a mind of its own. And
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, a guy who's a Young Legionnaire fan, but made a Zero Worship pedal, and that it's just got such a distinctive and a big blue light, so that gives it away. But yeah, wow. Okay, brilliant.
little homemade
Let's
pedals.
do
In it. Zero Worship is the name of the Young Legionnaire album, just to give a little bit of context. And this guy just made it for you because he loved you and wanted to give you a little toy. Didn't someone do that? Well done.
I've got. Is it here? Yeah. Hang on. One sec.
Because I remember like, where was it? In America.
I've got this that the drummer when I was in a band made, trying to rip off what are the fuzz pedals that look like a face? Fuzz face. Those ones, yeah. And he did it and then gave it to me going, it's all gone wrong, man. I don't know what happened. It doesn't really work. And it just is either off or on, and it's either nuclear warfare or nothing. It's just like amazing. Sounds absolutely amazing. And it's just like home built and rugged.
It's so cool, isn't it? That's kind of like this one. It's just mental. It's just, yeah.
Well, pedals, like I know I've got lots, like, you know, like in Cooper's, you sort of played pedals, didn't you?
Yeah.
But that was the thing about the ER1 or the Electribe stuff. I loved that it wasn't in a computer and it had a jack on it, so you could just put it into pedals and amps. It's like all that stuff, like a guitar. You don't just record a DI of a guitar, do you? As you don't with most instruments. And I always see it the same with synths and drum machines. That's the like raw pure sound, and then you do all the other stuff to them that then makes it a thing.
Exactly.
They're really addictive and lovely things to buy as well, aren't they? Because they look beautiful and they sound beautiful, and really fun. Hours sat on the floor playing with these.
I haven't bought one in a long time. God,
but it's just that relationship of I think I spoke about this before, but about that relationship of having something just to go, it's doing it right there. It's so immediate and it's in my hand and I feel it. It's a thing. Yeah. And it's like, that's why I love that relationship of creating the sound that way and just having it as a bit of a piece of kit that you have.
I think all the best moments are when you've got some guitar pedals and you do like something on the fly. They're always the most fun moments. I love it.
Pretty much maybe 50% of the records I do now, because I try to stop doing it. My memory man, just feeding that back on itself through a reverb or something, just sat on the floor, it always sounds good. I've tried to stop doing it because I did do it a lot, but it's also
one trick pony.
Well, you know, there's a few, but I'm running out. For a band to see as well, like, not like watch me do this, but like it's tangible and it's happening, rather than I could do that stuff in the computer, but then everyone's got all the delays that we've all got and stuff. And it's the wires and like the fact that some of mine were in like a big fire in the studio, so they will smell a bit smoky and like an old pub. It's like it's that thing, you know. They're just like beautiful, creative things. Go on.
When you're doing it in the box, like with Pro Tools, it can really get very tedious, can't it? Because if you put like a delay spin on something and you're like, oh, that's not quite right, or can you just lift it just a little bit more, or just a little bit more, and you listen to just a little bit, and then you go back, can you just change it, and it just can go on and on and on, can't it? Whereas with something like that where it's live and you just do something, you're just like, yeah, that's great, bang, move on, and it's just there, you know, you just capture it.
That's exactly it. Because I'm in this new place now. I've got a lot more space. And I'm going to get all of my pedals set up off my desk. I think we talked about this briefly last time, but because I really miss using pedals when I mix. And also then it gives you a bit of a sound. Like there's a few pedals that I carry on pretty much every session, and it's sort of part of my thing part of my production sound. Those things, other people have got them, but maybe don't use them in those sort of combinations. Where a lot of the stuff in Pro Tools, and as much as it's awesome, and I use it all day, every day, like everyone's got them. you know,
Yeah.
or uses them similarly. So
they're your
it's,
battle weapons, aren't they? It's just like a DJ turning up with a record bag with like some battle weapons, you know. It's just like you just know them inside out, and you're like, yeah, this one's going to get people on the dance floor.
It'll get you out of trouble.
That...
Yeah,
get you out of trouble. Good, yeah, I like that. Yeah, and it
So,
just fits in a certain spot as well. You know, you got that frequency that you need to sort of deal with, and you know that you've got this pedal in your back pocket. You're just like, boom, there we go, fills it. There's the fuzz. There's the moment. So yeah, back into it.
So yeah, I mean, so we went from this to okay.
I used to love that smile. Now I'm staring.
And I was really vibing on that. I was big fan of that. Reminded me a little bit of Prince, and everyone loves Prince, don't they? So
yeah. And
I think we might have even sped it up from there, but that was where we were at. And I'm pretty sure we went to down after that.
Dancing in my shoes.
All right, let's go to the main session, and then we can talk about what's in there. Then we can just break it down into the sections and just go through it like piece by piece, like we did before.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Tom, from your computer.
Yeah, and then if we want to talk about any any bits, we can jump over to yours and you can show us, or if anybody's got any questions about any tech stuff. Dan is the tech king.
Tech support.
Yes, tech support. Paul and I are not that great with tech. I mean, I remember doing the drums for this and setting up like just 4 mics, and I think like it was probably the worst mic setup with probably the wrong mics. But you know, that was the vibe.
Got you here, didn't it? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. It's a journey. So yeah, so that was like I said, the ER1 and the drums. So that's actually
where were the drums from, Tom?
The drums were next door. This is quite a small room here, and they were just next door. Yeah, I just decided to go for it. I just wanted a bit of a tighter sound because the rock set sound, not feeling it. Wanted something that was a bit more, I don't know, just a bit more present.
Have they got samples on?
Yeah, I believe so. There's a maybe you've got the breakdown, but I think there's a sample of a snare with some with a spring reverb on. And then you've got the drums that I didn't hear. And a kick. There's a kick drum later. Sorry, I interrupted you, but like they sound great. Yeah. Just sounds like Michael Jackson. I mean, come on.
Well, but part of that is that gated snare.
Yeah.
So a gate is when a signal comes through, it opens, and then when a signal gets below a certain level, it closes. And on a snare, if you do that really tight gate, it makes it sound very electronic, and then with a little bit of reverb on it, very 80s thing. But it puts it in a place, doesn't it? I love heavy gating on snares.
Phil Collins was he the guy that started it when everyone started doing it in the 80s? And I swear the gated snares that Phil Collins uses. Oh my god, what is it? Mama is it Genesis or Phil Collins? When the snare comes in on that and it's like proper big gate.
Yeah. AMS reverb on it as well. RMX 16. Phil Collins they did the thing where they figured how to record through the talkback mic on a desk.
Isn't that how it started? They sort of did it by accident.
Yeah, the producer
doing that.
Went to talk to him as he was still playing, so he could hear the sound coming out of the speakers, and it sounded incredible because the talkback mics have compressors on them. So if you're at the back of the room, they can still hear you. And he heard that and went, "What's that?" And then overnight, the techs modded the desk so you could access the talkback mic, and then they were doing drums through those. which you can now do a lot, and we will do those like one mic just destroyed, but that was one of the first times they've done it.
And that
I
basically
love that stuff.
dictated the whole sound of the 80s, didn't it?
Well, yeah, and like what, you know, all I do now is just compress the life out of mono drum mics to make drum sounds, you know. Thanks, Phil.
Love a bit of Phil.
I smile. Now I'm staring at your teeth. I used to love that style back in 1983.
So I think Paul's got a doubler on him, hasn't he? Which I think it's this. I seem to remember. Was it this guy? Which is like it modulates it slightly, doesn't it, and gives it that sound. And,
yeah, shall I bring up my screen?
Go on then, mate.
Get in.
Because I don't think I changed the vocal sound hugely when I mixed it, because I just thought it sounded fantastic.
Yeah, there we go. That's a professional session, isn't it?
There we are. So yeah, this is the vocal change. There's compression, and then this is the doubler.
Yeah, that's the thing that gives it the vibe, isn't it? I always remember you saying about like getting a sort of a character for vocals, and this was it, wasn't it? It just came and it's like, oh, that's making that's it.
That is the thing, because it's modulating. So it splits the signal, and then on this one it will be what's it doing? So it's pitching one side up a little bit, one side down a little bit, and then those are panned out, so it makes it thicker. So there's like 3 versions of Paul's voice: the original in the morning, middle, and then one slightly up and one slightly down, and it makes it sound super wide.
Makes Paul sound even better than he does in real life.
More me. Yeah. Oh, cool. Didn't even know that was happening, but fantastic. See, I'm learning. Yeah.
But I think I remember it was like trying to beat the vocal sound, and then not in a like egotistical way, just at what you do when you mix. Like, okay, I'll try this and I'll try this, and then one of them where I just kept going back to how it was, because it just sounded class. You know, it was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going for a more breathier sort of delivery on that as well. It took. I think it took a while as well. That was with the different changes of the song which you just heard. I was always in a different space in my voice. So this one I went even further with the breathy kind of in excess vibe, I think, which is what I took inspiration from and made it a lot more open, but also, I guess, open with the air, but closed in the mouth, so it was more kind of gritting your teeth with it. And then it just went, oh, okay, it really pushed it in a different direction for me, because I would never normally sing like that, but it really worked with the track. So that was after all those versions that we've done, where you kind of go to the usual space of your voice, but I think I remember really working on doing something different with this track. So
yeah, I remember when I started working with Paul, that I was amazed how he could like naturally filter his mouth to get different sounds from the shape of his mouth, and he'd be like, oh, how do you want me to sing it, like, and
pretty much the noises I'll make.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's really interesting, because I've never had that before. You must have worked with some singers like that, Dan, have you? Or is Paul the only one that does that?
It's I was few and far between. There's some people that have their thing, and that is that, you know, they have one way of singing, and it's great. And then there's people that, although you can always tell it's you, Paul, but you do have these. It's not even a different tone. It's like a different energy, I guess. But it's sort of like, it's character playing is the way that I hear it almost. Or putting yourself in the story, also putting yourself in the song. Like you said, it felt right to sing it with this version of the song. Because if you were sort of belting this out, big long vibrato, or singing it sort of like sexy voice with that sort of backing, it's like it's not going to fly. It's not going to fly, is it?
Yeah, it's not going to fly. No, exactly. And I think a track is, I mean, the vocal is very important, but I think if the vocal's not matching with it, it just sounds disjointed, and it's almost, yeah, you're right, it's kind of character play, and you kind of get into that mood or that area or zone or whatever you want to call it, and you just try and fulfill it.
Absolutely.
Also,
Also,
not trying to be anyone else as well.
Used to love that smile.
Right, first line of any song, if it's not absolutely killer, you're out. People will just switch off, and that's just like killer lyric, beautifully delivered, and then that sound on it. I'm like, yeah, you're like, I'm in, cool. It's like super important.
Yeah, that was a really great take. That it's sometimes when you put a vocal down, it's there and it sounds great, and then there's other times where it's like, we've been in a few positions like this where it's like, oh, do you want to give it just like 10% more or just 20% more? And it can make such a big difference, can't it? But then you sort of get into dangerous territory where you're just like, actually, let me just pull it back 20%. And Paul's really good at doing that and like being really meticulous. But then vocal changes so much about a track, doesn't it? And when you get into that position, it becomes really quite difficult to think like, actually, where's the energy right? And sometimes you just have to keep coming back and giving it space and being objective. And when you come in fresh ears, it's just like, no, it definitely needs more energy than that. And I guess we were lucky with that, because it just sat so well, didn't it?
Yeah, great. Glad that we got there.
That's when I know it's right, when I'm doing vocals with people. Really, it's like if you're going round the houses and trying different ways of delivering it, then you're still on a journey to figuring out how it should be. And then it's almost better to just stop, come back whenever, and then deliver it like that. And I've got this thing about, with any instrument, or particularly vocals, when I'm recording them, I call it jumping on the fader. If I'm not having to turn it up and down, or in Pro Tools be like trying to get it to balance, or do I need a bit more compression, or if it just sits and I can sit back like this and listen to it, generally I think it's got like, that's not every time, but that seems to go, it's comfortable, like, and it's just like, just feels right for the song.
I think it's hard when you're coming up with something for the first time. It's difficult to know where to put it, and like if you've been in a band, say you're writing, you recording your first album, or you've been singing something for years, and sort of when to go in and when to pull back, and how to make them, the shape of your voice, and when it needs to rage and when it doesn't, and you can do that thing where you just sing it from start to finish. But when you're doing writing something for the first time in the studio, it's kind of quite tricky, isn't it? Because you just you can sort of go anywhere, and if you don't get the vibe straight up, then it can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. But
absolutely.
And then when you get to, it's even more difficult when you get to playing these tracks live, and there's sometimes I change the vocal once it gets into that live arena, because I feel like it's not hitting as well as it should do in that space. I mean, with the Young Legionnaires stuff, the Zero Worship thing, I would kind of write on the road. We'd do demo some stuff, and then I'd just sing whatever on stage and see what worked best. And that's how it kind of got to the melodies and the structure that I got to with those tracks. And it is, it's just about the different spaces, isn't it?
I think that's how bands used to do it, didn't they? I mean, they would just sort of jam songs, as they would come in, and they'd, in sound checks or whatever. But I guess that sort of happens less and less, and there's more people writing stuff in studios, and it's a very different way of working, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the live tracks that we're doing for this release thing, they change again as well. You just reimagine them and sort of feel it in a different. So I'll do a different vocal kick or whatever, or a different space. So it lives and breathes.
All right, so we move on to the bridge then.
Go on. Do you want your screen back?
Go on then.
There we are.
Okay, so.
Used to love that town. Now there's rats on memory.
Got a little cheeky vocoder in there. Love a bit of vocoder. Who doesn't like vocoder? what else have we got coming in? So we've got these Telecaster guitars. With a little bit of slap on there, I think.
Sound great.
Sure. I think you must have put that on there, Dan. I think I was just straight in. When it's me playing the guitar, because it's normally just one note played like a legend. I remember there was a bass player in a band called Medium 21 who used to play the bass. He played the bass, funnily enough. And he said, all you need is the A string, one finger, that's it. And it really stuck with me. I'm like, yeah, that's good, I'm going to use that. So, yeah, just one note, simple, great sound. Okay, this little guy's turned up, this little sequence. So we got the drums in the ER1. And then this little guy here. He's bringing the vibe, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
That is that's a little soft synth called Massive, which is, again, I mean, the ER1's great for like a bit of hardware, but in the box, that Massive synth is really, really vibey as well. And often, like, we go to it, don't we, just for a little bit of pixie dust, and that really, like, you know, without it, kind of quite simple. Stick it in there. Oh, it's got a bit of movement.
Yeah, it lifts it so well, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I noticed here, Dan, you copied the snare element over in the chorus, didn't you, Cheeky?
Yes. Yeah.
And you've done something to that ER1, haven't you? Because it's gone from... I mean, that's already got like a spread on it, hasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There we go. And it sounds like you put a distortion.
Let me have a look. I probably would have. The snare thing is something I do in pretty much every mix that I do. Having listened to people like, I think when I first noticed it was like Rich Costi was doing it a lot, whose work I love. And you just notice that in the choruses, the snare would be very slightly different, like either a different reverb or a different, like a sample behind it, or a very different space. And it just does that thing of where, without changing much at all, it feels very different. Yeah. And then when you go back to the verse again, it feels like it changes. So I will often do just some little weird thing under the snare. I'm just trying to see what I did to the R1.
It's just very subtle, isn't it? Because I know this song like the back of my hand, and then, you know, if you'd have asked me if anything had changed to that ER1 or to that sequence, I'd be like, no, it's exactly how it was. But then when you send it back, and I'm like, whoa, that sounds amazing. Like, how did you get that lift, or what? It just sounds so much better, and I just, you know, don't understand. And then you do all these little subtle things, don't you? Which really, you know, that's
it's
tricks of the trade.
Yeah, well, it's loads of subtle things, because like with a lot of your stuff, Loser stuff, and a lot of stuff that I work on, it is sort of small verses and then choruses that want to just smack you in the face, like to drop, as I call it. But to do that is actually so hard, because you can't just turn everything up. You can't just have everything quiet in the verse, but you can't just make everything harsh, because it's uncomfortable to listen to. Yeah. You don't just want to add loads of stuff, because then it just fills loads of space. So it's that thing of manipulating the things you've already got and just making them very, very slightly different. Yeah. Because it's almost, it's like that trap thing that I became obsessed with, you know, about 10 years ago, and then I've done some stuff that's sort of similar to that in the energy, in that those drops in the chorus, everything comes out, and you've just got an 808 and a snare, and it sounds massive, and crowds just go off. And that, when I called that a reverse drop, like an inverse drop, because it's exactly what you don't expect. It's like build. Here, just have two things. And that's almost the trick when you're trying to get a chorus to drop. It's like very much that less is more. So yeah, that manipulation of what's already there is a way of doing it. I didn't actually remember doing that, but it's it's definitely something that can work.
So post-chorus. Now these guitars here, they are beautiful.
Filthy.
That is just, that's, well, I mean, I've called them Nirvana guitars because that's just, sounds like Nirvana to me. Me and Paul and Dan, of course, that's our generation, isn't it, I guess?
Best band ever.
I feel like I would have used something like this.
Yes.
And
I think you did.
And
it's got that crappy bit rate thing about it, hasn't it? I mean, it's in the best possible way.
It's like what you did with my vocals, where you split it. You can have the note, but then there's another note playing at the same time, which is ever so slightly off.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what distortion was used. We probably probably the table rat and stuff, but then that just makes it so uncomfortable and fizzy. And I can't remember the distortion that we used for that, but yeah, they're filthy.
I think at the time we were doing that because you were also it was about the same time we did the Young Legionnaire record, which Dan mixed as well, and it reminded me, I mean, it's not quite the same, but these I mean, it was that all that lots of loud guitars,
lots of semitones at the same time. Got to see.
Also the bit, like both of those guitar parts, where you're not playing, the noise is as important as the part. Do you know what I mean? In the Young Legionnaire riff there and in this riff, it gives it a bounce. If there was none of that and it was like twiddly sound, neither of those would have anywhere near the same effect, would they? It's just like that in between is like fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wake up and start again. Wake up and start again.
Okay, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Used to love that guy. Now he's dancing in my shoes.
Groove is in the heart, baby. So this bass, that was from the original track that we started, which was out of tune, which I just love. I love it when stuff's out of tune and works.
Guy, now he's dancing.
And it's this thing here, this Trillion, which is just amazing for bass sounds. Absolutely love it. Used it tons, and you can see here, I've actually pitched all the notes to bend just to give it a little bit of, I guess it's like if you're playing live, to get a bit of a feel into it, to make it sound like it's not a robot. You would do these sort of little bends, wouldn't you, just to make it sound a bit more organic.
It was that Young Father. I mean, we used to do the CS5 as well. That was always very bendy, but that Young Father's record, that was it called Dead or something? It was I don't know if it's the one that they won the Mercury Prize with. All just out of tune, just go like that. Amazing beats, and then just vocals over the top, and it's like what? It never quite settles.
But beautifully though, because that stuff, it's like I don't know, that to me gives it a sort of, it makes it a bit aggy and a bit sort of fuck you. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of a bit, it's quite aggressive, the fact that it is going out of tune. That would be such a different part if it was all in tune. And Paul, like the Young Fathers record, it is like harmonically wide, but sounds so good for it.
Great.
So good.
Love it.
Used to love that guy. Now he's dancing in my shoes. I used to love that game.
Okay, so bridge.
Used to love that film. Now it's
Now, did anybody know that there's actually some disco bass in this bridge?
You snuck it in, did you?
I did not know.
Yeah. See, when Paul's not there,
Yeah.
I put in these cheeky little things, and
Like,
I guess you can't really hear it, but it makes me really happy because I mean, look at me. I mean, I'm a guy that likes disco, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it lifts it because it's just like two notes, and it's more rhythmical than part, isn't it? It's again, it's that thing of like using stuff sparsely. Works great.
Now Rogers got a bit of
Exactly.
shit going on there.
Yeah,
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 he's,
no. And we got a little bit of our friend Mr. Juno, just to give it a little bit of pixie dust. It's another one of these elements that's just sort of tucked in there that you don't hear, but just add something, you know. And now we have the Mellotron R's coming on board. Love the Mellotron so much. It's just so organic because everything's a bit out of tune, and just really lifts the chorus. So you know, in the first chorus they're not there. This one we bring them along to the party just to lift it a little bit, which it does fantastically. Oh.
Oh.
Okay, so moving on swiftly. Now, Mr. Paul Mullen, here he comes to the party with a little bit of magic.
Ah, there it is.
so also this as well. Yeah.
We've got a couple of synths in there. This was a synth called Vanguard, which I don't have anymore because it's worked on the old operating system, which is a bit of a shame because I loved it. It was like really just ravey.
It was Ace Nexus. I don't think they do it anymore. I missed that. It was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's really like
Nexus, if you're out there and you're making it, send it.
Yeah, please. Loved it. Used it so much. But that's two different tracks, a high and a low, and they're both just being pitched up, automated. And then we're into our outro chorus. So this is when Paul ad-libs. Let's go to the main vocal.
Oh Lord, I'm alive. Wake up and start again.
Oh, Mr. Dan Austin with the pitch shift in there as well. That's a cheeky one, isn't it?
Did I do that?
Yeah.
Ah. Now, let me have a look. This is fascinating going over these old sessions because some of this stuff.
See, I never know that. This is all little tricks here, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Oh Lord, I'm alive. Wake up and start again. Oh Lord, I'm alive.
Cheeky, Dan. Very
Yeah.
nice.
So the reason I would have done that, it was interesting when you put the bass in there. Is trying to get stuff to cut sometimes, and like what I was talking about before, trying to make choruses drop without adding loads of stuff. Even to get that through would have been turn it up louder, or make it brighter, like two ways of making stuff more audible. But using pitch shifts on stuff, I do it on so many things in a mix that if you hear it on its own and loud, it just sounds ridiculous, like Mickey Mouse. But it means it will cut, like sub bass, for instance. You know, everyone's playing tunes off these now, so to try and get 808s and subs to cut out of these poxy little speakers, often put an octave above that you don't really hear, but it makes it cut, and again not having to then add another thing to fill up more space. It
sounds quite natural as well, because like a vocal, when it's that kind of it has its own natural harmonics as well within its structure, so you can just pick on those things and it sounds natural, but there's been many a time when I've done a loud scream or a long note, and there's notes that cut through more, and I'm not singing that note. It's just the harmonic structure of it. So yeah, adding that will just sound more natural to the naked ear, I suppose. But yeah,
absolutely.
We didn't even know it was there, because that's how.
Right. That's the best thing though. If someone's not phoning me up going, "Why have you pitch shifted all of my beautiful vocals?" It's just like it sounds great, you know.
Yeah. As long as you don't auto tune.
Beautiful.
We'll do halftime drums on that bit now.
Cheeky. There we go. And that's that, gentlemen.
Track. Wake Up. Probably the shortest track that we've ever done.
I think so, isn't it? How long's that then?
It's like,
it's like
2
minutes
49.
2 minutes 47-ish. Wow.
Do you know what? I've never noticed that it's that short.
It's incredibly short.
Super short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a whole thing about that. If it's 9 minutes or if it's 20 seconds, if it feels like it's the right length, then when you don't question it, it just feels right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions? Dimitri said that was cool. Thanks. That's a pleasure, Dimitri.
Absolute pleasure.
It's nice to know that you appreciated it. If anybody has any questions, speak now. Otherwise, I'll just say thank you very much to Dan Austin.
Oh, thank you for having me again. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's so interesting going through this stuff and hearing about the bits about the song that I didn't know before I got the chance to mix it.
Yeah, and thank you, Paul Mullen.
No,
Mo saying, what about some gig somewhere in Berlin? Maybe might be a bit tricky.
I gotta get back.
Paul's sort of in another country.
Gotta get back at some point. Yeah, but maybe we'll do something.
Let's come back, Paul. Des is saying, I noticed it was short. I'm hopeful for a longer remix someday. Well, there's going to be a live version. I mean, we did a live version which we uploaded the other day, which is quite a lot of fun to do, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's about 4.5 minutes. So
Yeah, I mean,
if we put the best part back into the song, then it'll be longer. But maybe that's what we do. Just wig it out at the end with that random bit. Yeah, we'll do a new track with that. But live stuff, yeah, hopefully another remix. I don't know. Maybe we'll get someone to remix it. Maybe we need someone to come on board and remix a track for us.
Yeah,
I know. We did a whole remix album last, so it wouldn't be out of character for us to get someone to.
Apparently, I used to do remixes, but let's not talk about that. No, I did. I enjoyed doing that. But yeah, no, we're working on some live versions, aren't we, Paul? And there's going to be a new track dropping in a few weeks, so we're just going to keep the roller coaster rolling, and there'll be another one of these in about 6 weeks' time. So thank you so much, everybody, and have a lovely night, and we'll see you all soon, hopefully.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Cheers, Dan. Love to see you.
Love it to see you all too.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Loads of love. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.